If you've seen my Instagram stories lately, you'll know that I just bought myself a 3D printer and I've been having a ton of fun designing things and just bringing my ideas to life. I've been trying to come up with products for downhill skateboarding and just longboarding, skateboarding in general for a long time. And now that I have this incredible tool, I can design something one day, fall asleep, and then wake up with a product on my desk in the morning. So I'm excited to present some of these things to you, and I'm excited to gather your ideas of more stuff that I should design. And if you want to get your hands on any of these products, stick around to the end of the video and I'm gonna tell you how you can, get to test some of this stuff out for me. Now, the very first product we're gonna go way back in time for, this is just a little Footstop. Of course, I feel like anybody who does downhill and gets a 3D printer probably starts out making footstops for themselves. I've always been a fan of wheel footstops, using like a core or a small wheel, using some washers to get that on my board. I like the mobility it gives you, getting to adjust your foot around in multiple angles, multiple positions, as opposed to a concave foot stop, which really locks your foot into one place. This is my solution for, just an alternate wheel foot stop. I actually first printed this right before Maryhill. I had a friend print it out for me years before I've had this 3D printer. This is a fun little design, and you can use a big washer in it, or you can just use hardware. The bottom of it's made pretty thick and durable, so you can just use a normal long bolt to get down through it. Yeah, I designed this kind of in a flurry, trying to get something ready for Maryhill that would work with the risers I wanted under my trucks. And this has really great clearance compared to some other stuff, so you don't have to use as long hardware. Shortly after that, I designed this thing. So I ride don't trip trucks. Specifically the downhill Sibens. And something about the downhill Sibens trucks is that it has this really cool design with an adjustable base plate. I actually have one over here. Now, the adjustable base plate rocks. However, I do notice on the rear one has a different geometry than the front. So it makes it really liable to getting dinged up, getting hit on impacts with curbs. It's even more exaggerated than the front one because of the trailing link geometry of the rear hanger. But essentially what you have is a big protrusion here as this rocker sticks out from the base plate, and it'll stick out past your wheels. And this, to me, is a very big weak spot. If I were to send my board directly into a curb after some sort of crash, I worry that this would very quickly fail and damage a lot of these thin components, these screws in here. This is a really elegant design. It's very cleverly designed, but admittedly it is a lot of parts that have thin walls and are assembled using standard screws. So I designed a bash guard that specifically fits don't trips. It'll fit a lot of other trucks too, as a matter of fact. I don't think this specific bash guard is limited, but it's awesome because it gives you a lot of range to move this. It doesn't block the rotation of it, and it's designed to crumple on impact, much like a vehicle. A lot of vehicle safety comes from the fact that when you hit something in your car, the car is going to crush like aluminum foil. If your car were perfectly rigid, you would decelerate instantly, and that would cause a lot of G's of force on your body. You would get extremely hurt. The car crumples in order to absorb the energy of that. And I've designed this bash guard the same way. Now, I put this one on my rear truck because my front truck doesn't stick out as much, but you can see that it has these channels that actually go all the way through it, and these layers crush and disperse the energy on the impact. This material is pretty brittle, so these thin walls will crack and snap, but they flex enough that, I tested with a 15 mile an hour impact on a curb with my don't trips, and it performed flawlessly. And I've been really thrilled to have this on my board, just a little bit of peace of mind. Next thing I've been designing are these puck risers. I haven't quite cracked the code yet on these puck risers. I'm still working on figuring out the right amount of curvature, the right places to have or avoid pressure points. But these are meant to follow the curve of your hand really well, so that when you're putting your glove down for slides, it's not even about comfort. As a matter of fact, the reason I want to match the curvature of your hand is so that the Velcro has maximum adhesion. I know too many people that have problems with their gloves peeling off during slides as they hit cracks, rough pavement. And so having a puck riser that A, gives the puck a perfectly flat surface to adhere to, so that's almost never going to fail, but B, fits the curvature of your hand so that all of that surface area is touching. It's going to make a much stronger Velcro bond. This is my version 1 design. This area over here is a little too thick because the 3D model of a hand I used had a really exaggerated palm muscle. I mellowed it out a little bit more with this design. It's got some funny wrinkles because of the 3D mesh, the way I mapped the curvature to the 3D mesh. This one is for your right hand. This one is for your left hand. And these are some other ones that I've made. This is my version 3 design. You can see this is one I actually felt was worthy of putting Velcro on. Getting Velcro to adhere to this surface was actually really easy. The Velcro really seems to, at least the adhesive on this brand, likes to bond with the plastic well, and it has a lot of flexibility in it, so I was able to, get it to stick to the curvature. Been pretty pleased with this one. I do think that the curvature is a little bit exaggerated, but this one goes on your right hand, and it's felt extremely comfortable. You can see how that curve matches almost perfectly into my palm. And this is another cool design I did. Instead of having it right-handed or left-handed, this one is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way it goes. I still think that this design needs more tweaking, and I got a lot of feedback at Sweaty Palm Slide Jam here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I had a lot of riders try these out and tell me what they like, what they didn't like, how it compares to other ergonomic puck risers that they've tried. And one of the cool things about this design that I did is I put my name in it, my last name, Campbell. And I've got the little YouTube logo embossed on the sides. This could be a fun thing to make and be able to provide people with like custom ones with their name on it. Super easy to do, and you can see this font and this size really came out crystal clear. A lot of overhangs and embossed features don't look very good, but my printer seems to do them pretty well compared to what else I've seen. Now, there's a common issue with the way that we assemble our wheels and our bearings that is actually really damaging to the bearing. Whenever you're applying force on the axle to push the bearing into the wheel, that's transmitting force through the inner race of the bearing. That inner race has to push on the balls, the like 6 or 7 ball bearings, and then that pushes on the outer race, which has the friction between it and the surface of the core of the wheel. Those 6 or 7 pressure points from the ball bearings can leave indentations in the races on your bearing. And what'll happen is, if you're a person who like slaps their bearings together or uses a lot of force or just does swap wheels all the time, you'll notice that your bearing, when you tighten it all the way down using proper spacers, speed rings, whatever, you'll notice that when you've got that perfect alignment, your bearing will have notches in it. Your wheel will almost like fall into certain positions, and you'll notice that if you measure it out, there are 7 positions. That's because each ball is getting into the same spot every time and creating a deeper and deeper ridge as you forcefully push the bearings together in a big side load that it wasn't really designed for. This tiny little tool is a bearing press. Now, if you've seen a bearing press before, it's usually a big hand tool. It's got a lever on it. It's got its own axle to put the wheel on. This little bearing press is super easy. It just slides onto your axle, and I use a recycled bearing to do this. This is a bearing that I popped apart for, it was rain skated, it got ruined. So I disassembled it and I printed this little plastic insert that holds it in place and gives clearance for the axle and the inner race so that that doesn't have any pressure on it. And what this does is this outer race perfectly pushes on the outer race of whatever bearing you're trying to install. And when you do that, it will completely mitigate any forces that are going through the ball bearings. You'll only be pushing on the outer race, the ball bearings will still be free, and you're gonna save a lot of the life and the precision of your bearings by using a tool like this. Originally, when I designed this, it was a full hand tool with like a handle that you could press in, and then I realized I could just simplify this all the way so I can just drop on an axle and we can install bearings on the axle just like you and I are completely used to. And it's super easy to make these. It uses a little bit of plastic. I put a drop of super glue in there just to like hold it all together, and then I hammer it into the outer race of a bearing. I'm really pleased with this so far. It's doing what I wanted it to, and I'm sure that as I continue to use these, I'm going to notice a greater improvement in just the life and the precision of my bearings in the long term. This is a product I'm very proud of because I feel like it's perfectly optimized. Lastly, and most recently, I designed this. It is a W-Concave implant. I've been fighting for some sort of back foot implant or W situation wedge for the past like 2 years, maybe even 3, just trying to find some sort of solution that's comfortable for my downhill skating, that works well as I transition my foot from like toe side cornering and tuck leaning into heel side, that doesn't interrupt where I want to stand on the board, but supports my back toe and the ball of my foot enough that when I'm going through hard toe side corners and hitting rough patches, that my back foot doesn't end up sliding across the board. One of my favorite places to skate here in Cincinnati is an incredibly rough road with some very challenging right turns that have a lot of bumps and waves, and that's been my main motivator for trying to find a solution like this. Now, this is the shape that I've come up with. I call this my bicycle seat concave. It is resembling of a bicycle seat. It gets a little wider at the back. This is only a 1/4 inch tall at its maximum, and it's got, a little pocket in there. I've designed this with 2 holes so that it's perfectly fixed where I want it on my board. But I am going to design more of these that actually have slots so that your mounting holes can be at different positions relative to this, and you can adjust it. This is super easy to install on your board. And if you've got crazy curvature on your board already, a little bit of heat and this plastic starts to become flexible, and you can almost mold it to the shape of your board like you would grip tape. It's pretty low profile and really smooth edges, so grip tape adheres to it really well, and all these layer lines from the 3D printing really like the adhesive of the grip tape. So this is reusable, it's easy to use, it doesn't interrupt your mounting holes. You still get to put your mounting exactly where you want it and not have to cover up your mounting holes in your hardware or like screw it in on top of the insert in a weird place. This is perfectly hard. There's no give to it. It's going to feel just like a natural part of your deck. And I'm really, really pleased to say that I finally found a W-Concave like back foot situation that gives me the confidence I need to skate really fast and not think about where my feet are going on my board. So I'm really proud of this design. So if you want to get your hands on any of this stuff, I recommend you check out my Patreon. This is a new thing for me. I've had a handful of viewers reach out and say, hey, I want to support you financially somehow. Would you consider making a Patreon? Which is incredibly flattering to hear, right? That's just blows my mind that there's the support out there, that people want to, sponsor this content and enable me to get my hands on more products, newer products, hotter products, and yeah, make this grow. There is a tier on Patreon where after 2 months in that tier, I'll send you a little goodie bag of 3D printed parts. And I might even hit you up if you want some custom stuff. But I've already got a lot of exclusive content on there. I recorded a 30-minute podcast about my first experience racing at the Medusa Death Race in Purdue in Indiana. I've got some unboxing videos of products that I've recently bought or a giveaway that I won. And I've got a photo gallery that compares different sizes of wheels, different dimensions. All this stuff is available for my patrons to check out. And, you know, above all, I want to stress, you don't have to support me financially to continue to enjoy the gear reviews and some of the thoughtful content I want to make on this channel. We're not going totally private. The Patreon is just a place for me to put content that's not quite glamorous enough for YouTube or for Instagram, like unboxing videos, like first impressions. You know, I'm going to put up first impression reviews of products that, you know, I don't want to put on my YouTube channel because those videos are permanent, right? They are going to live on for a long time. And if my first impression is not accurate or true to what my long-term opinion is, I don't want that message being out on the internet for years and people getting the wrong assumptions about certain companies. So that stuff's going to go on to Patreon. Now, the first tier is just $3 a month. That gives you access to the exclusive content that I'm putting out. And then the tier for the 3D printed gear is $5 a month. Odds are I'm going to have even more products available by then. So I'll chat with you. Maybe we pick and choose a couple things that you want. Maybe even get some custom stuff for you. But just as a show of my appreciation for your higher level of support. No judgment for whatever level of support you guys want to give me. Even if it's, you know, below whatever the tiers are, it's just incredible that people have even suggested this in the first place. I feel extremely honored and excited about the potential of what having a little bit of inflow, a little bit of cash inflow can do for this channel and allow us to check out, test out big comparative reviews, things where I can get multiple products side by side at the same time. I'm extremely excited for this. I'm proud of the content that's going on the Patreon, and I really hope you at least take a second to go check it out. But as always, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.